Yeah, he represents really the best of our community and a friend.
You know, I have some spirited conversations about policy, but we always agree on one thing, and that is when it comes to respect for the people who put on the uniform and the obligation we have to those who come home. There should be no division, no disagreement. There should be absolute unity in this country. And he again exemplifies all the best of those who are willing to make that sacrifice. He is going to be our MC and basically take it from here. He'll set the ground rules and run the rest of the show. So with that, Mark Young, and happy birthday to the Marine Corps.
That's why they worship because they need.
Say that again.
Oh.
Say that again.
I'm going to be the MC for today's Veterans Town Hall. My job is to be as honest as possible. This is the stage set for veterans to tell their story. First, our friends and press, thank you for attending. We would greatly appreciate your respecting the intent of this event. I am remembering that all veterans' comments are deeply personal. And while this is an open event, I would ask that you please respect the privacy of these veterans by asking either a member or staff of the veterans themselves if they want to be on the record. Today there are many vets who would love to speak and many non-veterans in attendance as well. In order for the town hall to be successful, my role is to ensure that the event honors the following agreements and expectations. A number of veterans have already indicated to us that they'd like to speak. I'll introduce each by name, branch, occupation, years of service. Once all the predetermined veterans have gone, I'll open the floor for other veterans in attendance to speak. Each veteran will have 10 minutes to speak about what their service means to them. And while you don't need to use the whole 10 minutes, I'd ask that you're not throwing on it. This is an opportunity for veterans to tell their stories. And the stories may express pride, grief, anger, or a combination of all those feelings. Now, the non-veterans in this room have a very important role today. As witnesses, non-veterans will be listeners, actively listening, as the gentleman indicated, without judgment or interruption, is one of the most powerful and supportive roles the community can offer to each other. Throughout the event, you may hear something you agree with or disagree with. You may have a question, you may want to say encouraging words, applaud, all with the intention to help. However, we ask that you please refrain from responding to any speaker at this time. Having laid out the ground rules, I'd like to introduce our first veteran speaker here at the Riverfront Bacon Center. Jeff Roberts, Army veteran, Cavalry Scout, 4.5 years, served from 2007 to 2014.
Thank you, Congressman Kildee, for hosting this event. I think this is outstanding. Currently, I work across the street at the University of Michigan Flint. I am the program manager for Student Veterans Resource Center there. As a veteran myself, I know the importance when you get out of the military, you go back to school. There is this certain sense of there can be a sense of not belonging, or a sense of these things are really hard. I haven't done math in 10 years. What my role there is to utilize my experience as a vet and get people to the point where they can see that academically, and I really love that position and the opportunity to do that job. Going first, batting lead off, I don't really know where to go or what to say, so I wanted to just kind of share my story, my experience. So when I was 19 years old, I was a kid in community college, shy, timid, very passive. And I think definitely when I made the decision to serve and following my service, who I am today is very much was born in battle and was born from that service. So I'm sure very many people can say the same thing. Those formative years were spent while in the Army. Many of those months spent in Iraq. So when I was 19, I was going to St. Clair County Community College. I'm originally from a small town called Crossville in Sanilac County. And I decided at that point that it I would have recruiters call all throughout high school. I'm like, yeah, I'm never doing that. And then at one point, the switch just flipped. So I elected to join the Army in January 2007. Immediately following my Cab Scouts OSUCs, I went to airborne school. I had that in my contract to become a paratrooper. Went to Fort Benning immediately following. Spent 3 weeks in airborne school. Graduated that in June of 2007. Went on a short leave. And then reported my first unit, which ended up being my only unit, the squadron, 73rd Cavalry Regiment, Fort Bragg, 82nd Airborne, 3rd Brigade. When I got there, I think it was June 22nd, 2007, and I was boots on the ground in Iraq on August 11th. I joined a unit that had been deployed already for 12 months in the Diyala province. And at the time, in 2007, the Diyala province was the most violent region in Baghdad. A lot of what Al-Qaeda in Iraq had done was relocate their forces there. And the night before I left for basic training was actually when President Bush announced the troop surge. So I knew where I was going. I didn't know what I was going to be doing exactly. But I was thankful to join such an experienced unit. And I only spent 3 months there. As I said, they'd been there for 12 months. They got extended to 15. I spent 3 months on my first deployment in the Diyala province. Still managed to squeeze in a little bit of time to get blown up once and get in one firefight. So in those 3 months, though, learned a ton. So the unit, when they had deployed, at the time, there were on average about 65 attacks daily on coalition forces in the Diyala province. By the time we left, we were a squadron of about 400 people handling a brigade-size area of operations. By the time we left, it was down to about 14 attacks daily. So a lot of work was done, and that unit made a lot of sacrifices during that deployment. They're Task Force 300, so they tried to have the Spartan mindset. Based off the movie 300, it had come out shortly before they deployed, or just while they were deployed, I can't remember. But they really took that mission to heart, being a small but fierce unit. And they did a lot of work there. They sacrificed 22 men during that deployment, and a squadron the size of 400, that is a significant loss. During that deployment, they had the largest single-day loss since Vietnam at the time. They lost 9 paratroopers in 1 day after 2 trucks had driven into their patrol base and ignited vehicle-borne IEDs. So I was privileged to deploy with that unit even for a short time. Came back, 20-year training, deployed to Baghdad in 2009. But the second time I went to Baghdad, it looked completely different than the first time I was there. We were doing a lot more rebuilding, we were doing a lot more getting out in the community. We spent a significant amount of time providing irrigation ditches in the suburbs of Baghdad to farmers so they could get their agriculture going. That's not to say it was without incidents, but I certainly, on that deployment, felt a deep connection to the people of Iraq, the people of Baghdad. I was privileged to serve in the oldest part of Baghdad, and saw a lot of just interesting places. And I hope someday to be able, that place is stable enough that I can go visit. But there were a lot of hard times in there, and I remember most of the time, the way I got through those was to think about previous generations. I still have a lot of pride in being part of the 82nd Airborne Division, and particularly the 3rd Brigade, being the only brigade in the division to deploy in every major conflict that we've had. 3rd Brigade was the only brigade to deploy to Vietnam. But I would always think about previous generations, whether it was World War II and thinking about the paratroopers that jumped into D-Day, or thinking about, honestly, just Vietnam veterans in general. For my generation, when we come home, there's a lot of thank you, there's a lot of fanfare, but for a lot of you that served in Vietnam, there wasn't that fanfare. There was a contempt and, on some levels, a hatred for what that conflict stood for, and you had to come home to that, and that, I think, just kept me driving along and thinking about that. So I wanted to take a moment and thank all the Vietnam veterans in the room, and if everybody would join me in applause for them.
Woo! Yeah.
So now, I got out in 2011. I elected to end at my 4-year 5-year mark. I did my initial contract and got out. Decided to go back to school and went to Bowling Green State University. Stayed there for 5 years, left there with a bachelor's and a master's, and that's kind of how I ended up here. But going back to, I definitely feel a sense of confidence, an ability to succeed, and know, and a very, very different perspective on life that changed the first time I was blown up. And it's like that instant the truck filled with dust, and the first time that my life had ever been threatened in my life, everything in the world just seemed so much smaller. All the problems that I face these days just gives me a resilience to get through and to know that this is not life and death. So I thank you for listening to me and listening to my story. Once again, Congressman Kildee, thank you for hosting this. I appreciate it. And thank you to all who have served, and also thank you to the people in this room that have not served in the military. Thank you for listening to us. Thank you for being here and giving up a little bit of your Saturday. Thanks.
Just a couple of housekeeping notes. We have a number of veterans that have already indicated their willingness or desire to speak. If there's anybody here that has not done that and would like to, you could see one of the staff members in the back of the room and let them know. Secondly, for the speakers, the 10 minutes are going to be, so you know, we have a color code. A member of Congressman Kildee's staff will be back. A green card indicates 5 minutes left. A yellow card, 3 minutes left, and the red card, 1 minute left. So we have some time to go down. The next veteran that I'd like to call up to the podium is Joyce from United States Army. She is a technician, served 10 years during the Desert Storm period.
Joyce. Yeah.
Hello. Again, thank you, Congressman Kildee, for doing this. I was serving during a time, and I was only, I think it was only 2 females that had a division that ran a division in the hospital. So it was a difficult time, but it was also an education one, and something that I learned from. I was talking to Ms. Susan, who also, was a medical field, and I thanked her for helping to pave the way, so it was a bit easier for me. I like to say a poem that erected at the Collegiate stand down that we do every year. It's called Red, Right, and Bruised. I have been bit, but not broken. I shouted out loud and barely spoken. I've wallowed in self-pity and prayed to my deity. All in the name of the red, white, and blue. I've been labeled a hero, but given zero. Everything I have, I've earned. And words, deeds, or what I've learned. All in the name of the red, white, and bruised. I chose the tough road. I have paid most of the debts I have owed. I've only asked for what I deserved. Sometimes my forks in the road have been curved. But there was always a way. After the storm came a calmer day. So now I'm proud to stand before you and say that I have triumphed, even through the red, white, and bruised. Thank you.
Thank you, Joyce. Our next veteran I'd like to call to the podium, Frank Harrison, Army veteran, retired, 64 years, and served in Vietnam. Frank?
Welcome home, brother.
Thank you. And that's why I'm up here. I'm not used to this. I don't know nothing about this here, but anyway, I'm just telling it like it is. I'm a mad veteran because it's just like my man there just said, welcome home, brother. We didn't get that when I got home. We didn't get that when I went. When I left here, I was the head of the household in my family. I got 9 siblings in my family. My father died in 1960. I was inducted in the Army. Well, me and my partner went to sign up in 1964 when the Vietnam War first started out. They wouldn't take me in because I needed 20 more hours of credit to finish school. We was going for the Marine. He went in, we was going in on a buddy plan. He went in, after he went in, I went back to summer school, I got my 20-hour credit. I went to, then I got hired in the shop, so I didn't want to go in here. But they sent me a letter saying, you are inducted. They drafted me in. Then I didn't want to go in, but I went anyway. But anyway, when I went in, as soon as I got the basic training, I got a letter from him. His name was Roy Stokes. He's on the board over there. He got zapped. He told me the last letter he had sent me said that you don't want to come over here. He said because they shoot us out of the sky. He said he was with the 101st and Marines. He went over there with the 101st. So he got killed. He got zapped. Anyway, if I tell all that, I'll be here all day. But anyway, the story I'm trying to say is that when I got ducked in, I was connected, they stationed me, they didn't know where to station me. I was in Vietnam for the first 2 months. I had no records, they never knew I was even there. When they finally found a place to place me, and I was in there, when I got over there, it was just like then in them days, when they used to put that Twilight Zone. I used to love that Twilight Zone picture. And when the glass breaks, like it was in another world. That's what happened to me when I got to the promise. I was just like lost. But I didn't get emotional. So anyway, anyway, going through all that, go fast forward. Anyway, I was inducted in. I was stationed, first 23rd Infantry Division in Korea on the 38th Parallel DMZ zone. My job there was, I guess, to test me out or whatever. Then we was over there, and we was connected to the first CAD division. Now from there on out, I was back and forth in and out. I was there in the demolition specialist. We was in and out of Vietnam, back over to Korea. That's why I'm dating now as a Vietnam era vet. So, but anyway, I made spec for I got all, and I loved it. I loved it because I knew I was fighting for my country. I was fighting for my people. That's all I thought about. I didn't think nothing about the country because the things, that's why I said I'm a mad vet, because the things that we was going through here in Michigan, my roots is right here in Flint, Michigan. I've been here since 1947. I know I went through it with Dale Kildee, with my uncle. His name Lee Henry Harrison. He knows exactly what I'm talking about. He fought, he was a Korean veteran. He had wounds all in his head. He got shot 4 or 5 times. He had plates and everything on his head. He fought for his benefits. He fought for his benefit until he died. And when he died, we still don't know what happened to him. He drowned out in Mud Lake in 1969. If anybody probably remember that incident. He drowned out there. He was fighting for his incident then, and he didn't get his benefits until after he died. His wife got it. See what I mean? I see all this happen. I see people come back with me, everything. When I got back, I was in Seattle, Washington. A little kid walked up to me and asked me, I had a little piece of candy I brought back from Vietnam. They candy is different. And I sit there and I had all my reference there, just deployed. And I said, she sat beside me and she said, what is this smell here? I said, oh, I don't know what it is. I said, that's from Vietnam or whatever, I said, I just got back. And she said, oh, that's pretty, And I said, well, here. And I gave her a little piece of candy. And her mother walked over there and looked at me and she said, look. She said, get your butt over here, sit down. She said, that man is crazy. She said, he's a child murderer. That's what she called, something like that. I mean, right then and there, you know, I just never had nothing to say. All I did, I didn't get my benefits until 2003. I put in form when I first got out. He wanted to go through all this stuff here and fill out all this. I didn't know nothing about all this political stuff and all that junk. So I just went on and I went back to work. And I dealt with all the frustration and said it, and I had another partner, his brother got out. And I helped him get in. My brother went in. He was with the 173rd. He went over there. He fought for 10 years before he got the benefit. He still don't have even 100%. Well, he do have 100% now, but it took him like 10 years to get it. And he's still things that he's getting. I got another partner, Gene Brew. You know, he's still in Battle Creek now, and he's 100%. And he got cancer now. You know, he got all this. And I got 10% Agent Orange and all this stuff. I got prostate cancer and everything. I don't even mess with mine. I'm on 100%, you know, but I'm workability. And that's what the only reason I got it is because, you know, they just, I told them, I said, hey, they wanted to send me to doctors here. I got to prove this here, prove that. I said, my proof is putting out. You got to do is go on the internet and find out exactly what I did. And then they'll tell you that. They told me, they said, well, we lost half your record. That's all. All you can do is take my word. So they tell me, well, we'll take your word, but you got to do this and do that. I said, well, I ain't got no more to do. I said, if you give it to me, good. If you don't, I ain't worried about it. 2 weeks later, they sent me my benefits, but I only got 2 years back. But 100%, everybody tell me now, well, you need to get this. I still don't have medical, you know, like I needed, you know, stuff like that. But I deal with it. I don't even argue about it. I don't worry about it. Just, okay, go ahead on and do what I got to do. But that's the only reason I want to get a chance out here to speak, is because I'm mad, because we got treated like dogs. We got treated worse than we did when we went in. And when we got back, we still get treated the same way. Like I said, I have people now, but then this just started happening within the last 3 or 4 years, walk up and say, welcome home, veteran, like my man there. And I got people that voted up. I've been with 3 or 4 chapters around here, and I see every time they come out, they bring in reasons up there, you know, like Sam, you know, I know him real good.
He can't see.
And whatever chapter, he's come to this memorial over here. I just left the one across the street.
He can't see. He's not looking at you. He's looking at the general.
He can't even get people in his chapter, you know, to come down here because he do the right thing. He fights for the right thing.
Use a little more assertive.
And that man been through more than I have. You know what I'm saying? And we don't get no record. I don't know if it's color or whatever it is, because I'm not president. And I, you know, when it was in the feet on the ground, you know, in the war zone, then just like my man there, you know, I was over there with Lieutenant Kelly. See what I mean? And when he did the village thing over there, I know you know what I'm talking about, see? And all that, you know, that was like the president after me, see what I'm saying? First time I ever see the presidency really is when I was, my last duty station in Fort Bliss, Texas. You know, I got an incident with a guy at the motor pool. He just decided that. And, you know, well, that's a long story too.
Well, he's looking at the general.
But anyway, that's the only reason I come here. I just want people to see like that person and what it is. Like I said, when I'm doing, I'm not asking anything. I don't want nobody to give me nothing. If I can't work for it, get it myself. But then I don't want it. See what I mean? I want to own what I got. See what I'm saying? And I don't want to have to play these political games and stuff like that to do something that I know that I did for. See what I mean? And I enjoyed what I did. And like I said, the only one that brought me through it was the man at the end. That's the only one I praise.
Amen.
Thank you for being
Thank you, Frank. Our next veteran is a U.S. Army Major, Michelle Merritt, engineering officer, 28 years, served in Operation Iraqi Freedom and Operation Enduring.
Hello, everyone. My name is Michelle Merritt. I retired about 6 months ago from medical But I'm originally from graduated from college. My father had some successful businesses here in Flint, and I wrote my life plan that I was going to join the military. So I never really had to join the military, but I joined because I felt that it was something that I was capable of, and it was something that I wanted to be a part of my life. So, coming out of college, I took the test. I was going in one, and I took the officer test. And
Okay, hold Joe.
was determined where they decided when to sign. So I was voluntold that I would become an engineer. So they sent me to Fort Leonard Wood to learn how to build things and build things up.
You got the list.
It was good.
I want to make sure that you're good.
You know, first I was a little hostile because you can't keep your hands clean and all that stuff. But, you know, I used to do this really great stuff.
You got the list? Because I don't want to record it if you don't want to.
Amazing. Exciting.
Because I know it's yes or no.
Going into Desert Storm,
Where's
I can remember sitting and watching the news, and I was like, like 2 days. You know, because I was just like in this state. So my unit at that time was not able to be self-sustaining, so we didn't deploy. But from there, I decided I would choose units in the Army Reserve that had a little probability of getting called up. So I got a lot of specialty designators. I did a lot of war planning. I've been to Korea like 8 times. You know, focusing on the Korean Peninsula. 8th Army Augmentation Command used to be down in the Detroit area, and we just all we did was work on the Korean threat. But anyway, the thing that ended up happening is early in my career, where I was trying not to get deployed, when the global war on terrorism came along, somehow they found my name in the database. And pretty much every other year from 2003 till now, I've been called on active duty. So the last deployment was 3 years ago. I got called up for the defeat ISIS threat. And generally in these situations, the thing that ends up happening is there'll be a bunch of active duty people, and you know there'll be a small amount of reservists. So downsizing all this thing. The thing that ended up happening was that the command center ended up being mostly reservists and only about 20% active duty personnel. So, you know, the wonderful thing about the military is that you get to be a part of history and you get to witness history. So, you know, all the things that you see on CNN, the Jordanian pilot, you know, sitting in the command center during that. Everything dealing with the ISIS, their movements and so forth. And like I said, I was here in Flint, I got called up, I went over there, next thing you know, I was war planning. So actually, we were doing course of analysis development, and it was my idea to choose Mosul as a strategic movement, and the general picked my idea, but I was able to justify why it was a good move for us as U.S. forces and the coalition forces, and so that went well. But you know, the success is that recently, the last month they took over Mosul, so that's they regained it. So that's one of the upsides. But I don't want to, you know, that's just a little caption of my military career. If you're a reservist, the thing that ends up happening is you have to be good, you have to be talented, you have to be multitasking. And the reason you have to do this is because you have to be good on your civilian job. Yes, you do. You have to be good for the military because you have to meet every regulation that the military says you have to do, but you have a lot less time to do it. So between the other things that everybody else values is, you know, family, the things you enjoy in life. So it takes a lot to balance all these things out as a reservist. And I've been happy to do that. But the thing that I was really excited about to speak here today, is to bring up just a few issues. I was reading about military benefits, and as compared to all the states, Michigan is rated absolutely last in benefits for veterans, which is heartbreaking to me. I didn't know that till I read that. The other thing that I would like to say is that when I've been in Flint looking for a job, it doesn't matter what the education is, it doesn't matter what the experience is. It's always been like, oh, you can be a security guard. Like, yeah, I can, but that's not what I would like to do, and I don't like being put in that box. And I'm sure other people have been like, "Oh, you're just in the military. All you're good for is just laying in the dirt, and you don't know anything beyond that," which is not true. So my second point would be that the job opportunities and opportunities after people leave the military, I think there needs to be a checkup from the neck up with the people who serve veterans and not have that kind of boxed in thought. Because I could be a security guard, but you're not gonna do it. Anyway, and so the third point is on a personal note. As I stated earlier, I got deployed for the Defeat ISIS threat. So when this happened, by law, reservists are supposed to get 30 days notice to deploy, but I actually got 2 weeks. So I didn't have a whole lot of time to, shut down my life and do all this stuff. So there is a law that says that if a military person is deploying, that any legal action or anything that happens against them cannot take place. That is a law. But the issue is, I don't know how many landlords really know that this is the law. So, they were like, get on the plane. I got on the plane. So I went, do what I need to do, sent my money back to pay my rent, and they put my stuff out. Okay, so the good news is that I've been able to rebuild everything except the sentimental stuff. So it's, it's not like, at least I was able to adjust. But the reason I'm telling this story is that I'm not the only person. Because the situation is my unit, when I deployed, was based out of Grand Prairie, Texas. So I didn't have unit members, in this area that could go and check and look out and do things for me. And I just had no place to call or to say, look, this is the situation, don't let this happen. But the landlord, when I made an application for the apartment, of course I gave them military information. And they're like, oh, we never knew that you were going, away. But, I'm not crazy. I gave them my orders. And that was really their argument. But the thing is that if somebody is deploying out of this area, where do they go? Do they go down to the county court building or to the administration building and say to the ladies on the second floor, oh, this is the situation? Because they're really probably not going to do anything. I wouldn't want anybody else to be put in that situation. Because financially I was able to rebound, but, the situation never should have been because it was illegal. On that note, I'd like to say, Congressman Kildee, I appreciate you. You're one of my hometown heroes. I always have been, even when you're working at the administration building. Right, and sir, good to see you, General Stone. Yeah, so that's all I want to say. And, I love Flint and I love the Army. And, have a great Veterans Day.
Thanks, Michelle. Our next veteran is retired U.S. Army, spent 2 years, 11 months, and 14 days as a Korean vet, Larry Nelson. Larry?
Congressman Kildee, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow vets, good afternoon. I don't have profound to say. Like one of my fellow veterans before me, I went in under the buddy system with two of my friends at Fort Wayne down in Detroit. Unfortunately, they too flunked out, and I was left by myself. Then this kindly sergeant come up and put his arm around me, and he says, you know, if you would extend for another year, I can get you special training, stuff like I can do lots for you. So that's how I went from 2 years to 2 years, 11 months, 14 days. I asked for radio school. They sent me to the 12th Engineers in Port Underwood. And I asked for Europe. They sent me to Guam. So, see how that all worked out. But anyway, I made it through my 3 years. A lot of experiences I can't relate to the mixed company. But all in all, it was a good experience. Helped me to grow up because I was pretty immature and kind of stupid back then. Born and raised in Flint, and I lived through the greatest period any kid could hope to grow up in, and it breaks my heart to see what's happened to Flint. But anyways, after I got out of the service, I got involved in the American Legion. I've held pretty much every position there is to hold, all the offices and everything. Some of the experiences was dealing with other veterans. I had a Vietnam vet came up to me recently, had joined our post. We got to talking, and he says, "Do you know what my first assignment was when I got shipped over to Vietnam?" Of course, I didn't know. And he says, "Assembling body parts." Welcome to the war. I don't know how you deal with that. Anyway, they weren't all bad. There's a lot of good things that happened. Something else I was going to mention, but it escaped me now. You know, when you get older, your memory kind of goes. One thing I did want to talk about, main reason I came down here, and I'm hoping that Representative Kildee can help me with this. My brother retired from the Navy. After he got out of the Navy, he went to work at the post office, and he retired from the post office. Was living out in Arizona. Well, he passed away in July. And my nephew was the executor of his will. He went out to Phoenix, made all the arrangements, had him cremated, and had his remains shipped back to where he lived in Indianapolis, and he was going to drive him up there for burial. Well, he never made it. And the only thing we know that he's somewhere in the Indianapolis postal system. And that was 5 months ago. And I tried to get answers. Of course, maybe I don't have a big enough stick. But anyway, they said, well, we're looking into it. So I've been working with the Michigan Department of American Legion, and also a McAtee, who was assistant to the state rep, state senator, I think it is. And he is looking into it right now. He says, I may eventually just have to turn you over to a service officer. But anyways, I'm hoping maybe, I'm sure my brother is sitting up in heaven laughing his ass off. He retired from the post office and they lost him. I don't know what you're going to do about that. Anyway, we're hoping eventually to find my brother Rich and bring him home so we can bury him here. It was mentioned earlier about how Michigan was so poor in veterans claims and all that. We'd like to toot our horn a little bit because the American Legion, and I'm sure the VFW and all the other service groups are the same way, they've really stepped up and taken this job on, and I think they've done a wonderful job at expediting some of these claims and stuff. So, other than that, thank you very much for listening to me.
Next veteran is Army veteran Gavin served in the infantry for 4 years in Iraq, and accompanying him is Judge Jenny Barton.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for sharing your stories. Thank you for allowing us to be part of your lives. I'm here, I'm not a veteran, but because of an event that happened 6 years ago to someone who I cared about very much, and that's my secretary, who lost her son to PTSD. He lost his battle. And I think you all know what I mean. She took that horrible tragedy and brought to my attention that there was such a thing as a Veterans Court. And I went to New York and looked at their program, and to make a long story short, hometowned to Genesee County. And I'm proud to tell you that we are having our 5th anniversary of the Veterans Court. Now, this program is for vets who find themselves as a result of injuries, most of them emotional, they've suffered because of their service. They find themselves in the criminal justice system. It is not a free pass for a veteran, but it's for a veteran that got themselves in the trouble because of that, and instead of going through the regular criminal justice system, they come to our program. Our program lasts a year. The vast majority of people have their charges dismissed, and the key component to it is that each and every participant, I've got 18 in my cohort right now, we have 80 through the program, most have graduated, but the key component is each has a mentor. The one thing I've learned in running this program, and I think one of the most important things, is vets talk to vets, probably because they understand. And a lot of people who have had a successful journey is because they have had a successful relationship with a mentor. Now, we need mentors. We also need participants. If you know anybody who's in trouble with the law, be sure to have them investigate whether or not they can get into my program. But we need mentors. And I am going to leave with Mr. Kildee's staff how to sign up as a mentor. But I couldn't think of a better way to demonstrate to you how important it is and how serious we are about it than to have one of our past participants who graduated successfully, had his charges dismissed, who decided to pay it forward. And that's with Marcus. Marcus is now mentoring 3 people. That's more than he should be. How many? 4, I'm sorry. More than he should be. It should just be 1 because it's a totally time-consuming thing. But this guy, he reminds me of a couple other people that can't say no. But for that, I want to turn it over to Marcus so he can tell you about his service, tell you about his time in the program, and tell you what it means to be mentor. But the most important thing I'm going to do is leave this information with Congressman Kildee's staff. Marcus?
My name is Marcus Garvin. I was born and raised in Flint. I was kicked out of most of the schools that we have here. At some point I decided it was my turn to sign up for the Army, and only 11 Bravo would do. I did 3 years before I kissed enough butt that they gave me Ranger School. Got out, and 6 years later I had 3 deployments under my belt. Had a incident in Sauter City, woke up in Kansas City, and medically retired from there. Came home, and I had 52 surgeries so far. I don't see him, the Calf Scout, I think he left, but myself and a friend of mine, Jeremy Glastetter, started the Student Veterans Program at U of M Flint. And I ended up going there and got a bachelor's degree, and then I got another one, and a master's degree, and I went to work for the state. And like I always seem to do, I screwed things up and found myself standing on the wrong side of a judge. And I was offered Veterans Court, and I had no idea what it was, but my lawyer said take it, so I did. And I wound up in front of Ms. Barkley here, who cut me absolutely no slack, rode me every single day, And I burned through my share of mentors. I think I had 2 or 3 before the end of the program, but it showed me that this thing in the back of my head that had been missing for years, the camaraderie that I had in the Army, that there was just so many shallow representations of it out here, but nothing that truly replaced it anymore. It gave me an opportunity to find that again in these guys. Now, granted, there's differences in the mentalities between Vietnam era, Korean era, OIF era veterans, but ultimately we can sit down and tell the same jokes and have a good time together and be able to speak to each other and know what we're talking about, where if we talk to a civilian, we just get blank stares. So I completed the program with 0 issues. My charges were dismissed and I was sent home. And about 6 months later, I was approached about coming back as a mentor and working in the program and being assigned people myself. And so I went back to the program and I was assigned a guy and assigned another guy and another. And before I knew it, I'm sitting here with 4 guys now, and I wouldn't trade any of it. I talk to my guys every single day, and it's very rewarding. I almost consider veterans a life-saving organization because very literally I know it has saved mine. I'm sure several of us in the room have had that moment where we're sitting on the corner of our bed or sitting on our couch with no lights on, and we're thinking all kinds of things. And it helps me, especially to see Miss Cherry every week. It was her son who was lost at the start of this program, Special Forces soldier. And he lost, and every week when I go to the Veterans Court and I see Miss Cherry, I see that loss in her face. I couldn't do that. It's very real it makes it real for me. So it gives me a reason to keep moving. And the guys that they assign me to work with give me a reason to keep moving. Because quite frankly, nobody's going to do as good a job as me. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Army veteran Tom Toohey. He was a Morse code interceptor. He spent 3 years during Vietnam. Tom?
In case I say anything really cool, I'm going to do that. And I'll get to the reason on that in a little bit. Thank you, sir. I appreciate this. On the 5th day of the 1950s, I was born just a couple blocks over here at St. Joe Hospital. In November of 1967, I stood on the field at Atwood Stadium with my horns and my Viking outfit because I was the Flint Northern Viking. Thank you. That's right. My mom went to Central, so it's good all around. And I wouldn't be standing here today if I hadn't gotten caught in the draft in 1970. But I was smart, and at the last minute I signed up. They looked across the table and said, "You're a college boy, aren't you?" I said, "Yeah." And they said, "Have you ever heard of the Army Security Agency?" I said, "No." And they go, so I didn't know any better. And I knew it was better than toting a rifle. And I allowed myself to be signed up for 4 years. In 1970, in June. Hey, Yancho. And I went to Fort Lost in the Woods, Missouri, Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, for my basic training, and Fort Devens, Massachusetts, to learn how to copy Morse code. A very valuable skill in today's world. Old movies, S, in any event. And this is only the second time in 45 years since I got out that I've been able to stand and say I'm a veteran. The only other time was the last time when I was with you and I got this thing here, the little pen. So thank you for that. Yeah, I remember taking my uniform, I've never said this to anyone, on my bus ride home and just all the stuff I had in it, I just threw it into a trash can. Yeah. Because those were the times. And in any event, I would like to say that I'm still on a mission, and I have an opportunity here to give the representative an idea that I think the Democratic Party should do. Everything is in the physical. Ideas are fine, but the neighborhood is where we put our ideas into practice. No room for talk about religion and politics when there's stuff to do. Nextdoor.com is a social, free, private neighborhood network where neighbors can get to know one another. You make a time bank in a next-door neighborhood where people get to learn who one another are. People don't have to go to nursing homes because they can stay in the neighborhood because they're needed in a time bank in a next-door neighborhood where people are talking to each other because we all feel like we're living alone in a sea of strangers. And when we find out we're really very much people who are exactly like us, just even the people who are different from us, when we get together we find out there's only 3 things that we have in common. We eat, we sleep, and we poop. Everything else is a choice we make. So that's what the Democratic Party should do, is encourage people to understand what the core economy is. You have an economy, but without the core economy that built the economy, you have nothing. The core economy is if I'm in a wheelchair and I can't change the light bulbs, I go to the time bank and you might come over and change them for me, and I pay for that by doing something for somebody I can do. I don't get out often. And I'm in a dilemma as well. I've been dealing with the veterans pension for 2002. I had colon cancer, and I now wear a colostomy bag, and I have since 2002. What you do sitting down, I do standing up over the toilet. And I was given an 11% chance of surviving 5 years, 15 years ago. And I stopped filing my IRS tax forms back in those days because I was planning on dying. And I didn't die. And it screwed up everything with my VA pension, and I had to go back retroactively and get my IRS forms done and show them to them, because when my mom passed on and left me the home I'm living in, they think she left me $110,000, and that's just not true. So that's why I'm doing this, because I've been recording my voice and images and everything they've written to me so I can spread it out and understand it, for one thing, and point out where I have found they have made factual errors, which will the waiver back out, and I'm sure we'll be talking about that soon. So thank you to the VA for saving my life. I had colorectal cancer in 2002, and I have free medical care because I was in Vietnam. Well, actually, we weren't in Vietnam, we were in Thailand. We were listening to Morse code. I get the Morse code signal and call on the landline to somebody else who gets the same signal, and they can cross the signals with directional finding equipment and send in people to get the VC. That's all I can think of. Thank you again. Go Northern.
Next veteran is a World War II veteran, George Yancho, was served in the Army, Corps of Engineers. George.
Okay. First thing I want to ask is there anybody else here from World War II? Any hands go up, World War II? I am a member of the 822 VFW Honor Guard. I have been for about 15 years. And it seems like there was about at least a half a dozen of us from World War II at the time when I began. Right now, I think I'm the only one left in the Honor Guard at 822 that is from World War II. So I still would like to try to remember everything I've done during the war. Invasion of Europe was the greatest invasion ever done by anyone in the military. I missed that, and I am glad because I might not have been here talking to you right now. But I didn't miss it very much. It was about a month and a half later when we got to Europe, from England to France, and the front lines was still in France, and it didn't take much for us to lose members with wounds from a booby trap that was set up by the enemy. One of those was my cousin, who was told by the colonel to pull the roadblock out of the way. And we were taught in our training, you put a rope on it and pull it out of the way in case there's a booby trap. But the colonel wanted to get through that immediately. So when it went off, my cousin got wounded, and I hadn't seen him for several years after the war. But the colonel also got wounded, so probably served him right. That was our first experience in the European theater. My second experience is we were assigned, I was in the combat engineers, and the combat engineers, they will assign you to whoever needs you. And this particular time when we were taking Aachen, they set our battalion of engineers in as infantry. And I happened to be in the foxhole, and one bullet hit my machine gun and knocked the pistol grips off the machine gun. And before that, I never believed in smoking cigarettes. But I immediately lit up a cigarette and started smoking. I smoked for 15 years before my family decided that they didn't want me to be smoking. And it's a good thing because that was 1957, if I remember correctly. So whatever health I do have, it's probably because I don't smoke. The second encounter I had with the enemy was they had the Sing-Free line had pillboxes all along that line, and our job was to get them out. So this one particular pillbox, being the leader of the squad, I kept the men back, but I went up and I threw a hand grenade in one of their portholes in it, and we went around on the inside of the pillbox, and those that were dead inside had been dead. It was not my doings, so I felt good that I did not kill anyone. But I 300 pounds of dynamite in that pillbox, and then I lit one fuse, and it was burning as I lit the second fuse to make sure that it was going to be blown up when I left. So after finally the wind was blowing, but I did finally get the second fuse lit, and then I took off to join mine in a safe position. And it destroyed that pillbox completely. And the next thing we were doing, we were planting mines between the American forces and the German forces. Also, other nights we were digging mines. And as we got to the furthest infantry, they would ask us what's the password, so we told them, and then we asked for the countersign, and when they gave us the right countersign, they said, where are you going? And we said, we're going up here to lay some mines and some barbed wire. Well, don't you know I'm the furthest one up front? Yeah, I guess we knew that. You poor SOB. Other jobs we had, when the road needed repair, we'd be working with our shovels, and being engineers, we had to work on the road when General Patton or someone else would come by, we'd have to salute, and then until they got away from us, then we would continue our work. And one time on the main river of Germany, the spring, the high waters took the bridge, the floating bridge downstream a little, and we had to correct that, had to bring that back up. Another job, when we were building bridges, we had to build this one from the timbers that we cut. We took over a German sawmill, cut up the timbers, and used them for building the bridge in Essen, Germany. And that one there, it took a little while. And that only wound I got was getting too close to the acetylene torch, and I burnt my wrist a little bit. Another time we were digging the mines, we were accumulating all of these mines, and then we put them inside of another pillbox, and with the intention of blowing the pillbox and destroying all the mines. But the 88 started coming in, and when they were getting too close to us, we jumped in our truck and went to a safe area until dark. Then came back and blew that pillbox with all the mines in it. Before we blew it up, of course, we took this motorcycle out of there, and we played with that for a couple months. Some of the other things just seem to slip my mind. There was, we were called on in, I believe it was November, to build the road in the Netherlands, to build a road in the cemetery. And the job was given to my platoon, and it was supposed to have been done in 1 week, but it took us considerably longer because it rained every single day, and it rained so bad that the gravel we put in sunk into the ground, and we got saplings out of the Hurtgen forest and laid them down, but the ends turned up. So then we got bigger logs and we pinned them to each other with big spikes. And then we built the road on top of that. And they were happy that they had this road in there, and one of my men got wounded by a mortar, and our medic went to get him, and the medic got hit direct with that mortar, and he's buried in this cemetery in Margraten, Holland. And my platoon is on the back page of that, and I'm the tallest one with the shovel, and the rest of those are my squad. But anyway, they were so happy with this, and they were so happy that we saved them from the Germans, that they put a big book like this, and almost everybody in Holland has this book. And I have mine, it's in English. Mine is not in their language. But they interviewed me, they came here to the United States and spent 8 hours with me. And this is what the book is. I'm in 5 different pages in that book, including my squad on the back.
That's awesome.
After that, we had the Battle of the Bulge. And we were in there. At one time we were surrounded. And when the Germans wanted to have us surrender, the general says, nuts. And the German says, was ist das? Nuts. So anyway, that was that. Shortly after that, it was 1945, April, and that was Easter Sunday. We went to work. We went to Mass at 4:30 in the morning, and then went to work putting a bridge across the Rhine River, which ended up being the longest floating bridge in military history. Went across the Rhine River. The Navy helped us. The water was high in the spring, and they took this big anchor that we made out of concrete, and they put it upstream to hold that bridge in place. And the bridge was done within 2 days. And George Patton, with his tanks, went bumper to bumper across that bridge. And in May, which was only a month, the war ended. So we feel as though we had a part of that. Another thing that I can't forget is my brother flew P-47s, and in July of that year, 3 P-47s came from England to see me, because he never seen me in uniform, even though I've been through all these battles except the invasion. These 3 P-47s landed there. I was charged of quarters, and I didn't know they were coming. And that was really something for my brother to see me. I guess my time is about up. So anyway, I'm back and I'm safe.
They don't want to call me, man. They don't want to call me up to gas. How's the first place, sir? Yeah, no, can't be.
Our next speaker, Army veteran Arthur Woodson. He was an NBC specialist, spent 7 years in the Army during the
How you doing now? I don't want to use my time to speak about what I did.
while I was in. I want to speak about the war that I fought and that I'm still fighting here in the United States. It's called the VA. Some of you might have good visits or good time or whatever with the VA. It's a lot of veterans who haven't. I was one of those veterans. I went to Battle Creek 2006 because I had an issue of PTSD. When I went there, I started talking to the doctor. The doctor said that we veterans go out and get crack on credit, and then we go check ourselves in to the VA hospital, and it's a cycle with us. I told him I was there, I don't do drugs, I'm there because I needed help. That's what I was there for. So the male nurse got mad, and he called the VA police. Well, they came and told me that I needed to step out in the hallway. I told them I'm not going anywhere unless the doctor come and tell me that I have to leave because I hadn't done anything. Well, they pulled out the canister of mace. By me being an NBC specialist, I told them what you have in that canister is CS riot disperser liquid, and what I'm gonna do is drink it, and I'm gonna beat you, whatever, because I was mad. So he turned around and felt cocky, and he maced me. So we got to wrestling and doing everything, and they took me down to Grand Rapids to federal court. And from there, I stayed in there from March 19, 2006 to March 19, 2007. There was 39 veterans in jail, in prison at this time because we had issues, and instead of them working with us, they felt better that it was just putting us in prison. So when I got out, I promised the veterans that when I get out, I'm gonna fight for other veterans. So when I got out, I would go down to DC, the veteran court that they were speaking of. I was fighting for that because all of us did not belong where we were. We was trying to get help. We was trying to better ourselves. Some of you might have good stories about it, but it's a lot of veterans. If you listen earlier, you hear a lot of veterans saying that they do not have good experience with the VA. The VA has a quota. They do 12 quotas. They have to do 12 quotas a day when you fill out for VA benefits. They have 12, and they have to get it out. So how do you fix this? Your C file is enormous. So they don't have time to go through all the evidence that they have to look at in order to give you your compensation and your benefits. So what's the best way of meeting that quota is to just say deny. That's how they do it. They don't even take time. They say, well, you have an appeal process, so let me just let you go to the next stage, and then maybe they'll check you out back over on the other end. But at this time, you got to wait at least 3 to 4 years before you can even go in front of a decision review officer. And while you're waiting for that appeal to go in front of the BVA, which is the Board of Veteran Appeals, which might take up to 5 to 6 years, you have to fill out a Form 9. You can also ask for an M21-M1 Chapter 1 Part 4, which is a formal hearing with the DRO. But they don't like for you to have that because when you sit down at the table, they have to take all the evidence and put it in transcript, and they have to go by that evidence. And then on top of that, you have what they call a 38 CFR 3.102, which is reasonable doubt. They have this comp and pen doctor who asks you to come in, and they ask you how you're doing. You might just say fine at that time, but later on you might have some serious issues. Well, then they write down that this veteran came in and he was feeling great. So when that DRO get that compensation or that compensation and pen exam, he said that the veteran came in great just because he was feeling great at that time. So when they get that, you tell them, hey, listen, you did a DBQ, which is a disability benefits questionnaire. And that doctor, which is your private doctor, says that something is wrong. But the compensation doctor that works for the VA says, no, it's not. So you have what they call a 38 CFR 3.102, which is reasonable doubt, where you have positive and negative statements that support you or either disagree. Well, then under the VA is supposed to be your advocate. They're supposed to be your advocate, so they don't supposed to weigh which one is more than the other. But they come up with another way of beating you again. Like I said, you might not have had a bad experience with
the VA. But it's a lot of veterans, including myself, who has. Veterans going down right now. July the 1st, a veteran went down to the VA and said that he's not doing good. He has PTSD from Montrose, Michigan. He went down July the 1st. They sent him home. They sent him home and said, come back after the 4th of July. He went into the living room and shot himself, killed himself in front of his family. This is not a joke. Doctors don't have to be licensed to be moved around in the VA. They just go. A doctor put the x-rays up backwards and they amputated the wrong leg of a veteran. These are the things that's going on. And just because it's not happening to you doesn't mean that it's not happening to someone else. I tried to open up a veteran transitional housing. They said if I move my housing closer to Flint, they would approve it. They did not want to approve it because it was in an R1A area, beautiful area. They said that they did not want any mentally ill, substance abuse veterans walking around in their area. A lot of people sit back and say, I support veterans, I support the military, but deep down inside, all they do is give you money, and then they try to help you with the benefits, but they don't want you around them because they think you have serious issues. But they don't want to sit down. The VA over medication. The VA don't want to sit down and understand what's really going on with you. They just want to take that DSM-5 booklet and label you as something as psychotic. You might hear my voice. It might sound like I'm angry, which I am. But I'm passionate about not leaving a soldier behind. I'm 100% PTSD disabled veteran. They told me if I keep on making noise, they're going to make my life miserable. I don't care. My life is already miserable when I see another veteran cannot get his disability. What we need to do is make sure that the nexus, they have a nexus. You got injured in the military. It's an invisible wound. The nexus is now I have to connect what's going on with me now from the injury that was in the military. We need that removed. What we need removed is the doctor has to say more likely than not. That's the key word. That's the government word. More likely than not. If more likely than not is not in your statement, you will not get your benefits. So you have to read up or find someone. I have helped 70 veterans get over $70,000 or more. And let me make this statement real quick. How they do not care. Down in Camp Lejeune, 1953 to 1987, they had water contamination of TTHM, which we are having here in the city of Flint. From 1987 to 2016, they could not get medical or compensation, even though they knew from 1968 all the way up to 1985 that water had benzene and TTHM. If you knew it was there, if you was fighting, if the EPA was there, why does these veterans have to die before they get benefits? Why is it so hard for Vietnam veterans that they had Agent Orange to get benefits? Why is it so hard for World War II veterans to get benefits? Why is it so hard for Korean veterans to get benefits? Gulf War. Why is it so hard? Because we do not stand together. In D.C., they had what they call the bonus march. A lot of veterans died at that bonus march. But as one, as veterans together, not because you have yours, but because we stand together, we can make it happen. Thank you.
Our next veteran is a veteran of the British Army, Airborne Infantry. He spent 24 and a half years from 1985 to 2009. And I'd like to welcome Lane Weiserman. Is that Lane Ian? Okay, I thought maybe Ian was there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Two veterans, because he led the way from my generation, my parents' generation, to what they are today. So I'm going to stand down.
Oh, never. No, I kept on switching out and stuff, man.
I came here today.
No, it's good, man.
Today, the 11th of November, is what I call Remembrance Day. For us, it is the day we were popping to remember those that have gone before us. I didn't know what I was coming to today. I really didn't. But as with all good stories, stories start in the pub. Once upon a time in the pub. Remembrance Day always finishes in the pub with the soldiers, the old veterans, your mockers, the guy that was in the trench with you, telling the story. Do you remember so and so? Oh, him that lost his leg. Yeah. It's always in the pub, you tell the story. So that there is a commitment from today. I won't get into the political name. I joined the army in 1985. In Britain, we can join when we're 16. I was born in 1969. I joined when I was 16. You want me to use the microphone? Sorry, I thought I was carrying my voice. So I joined up in 1985. I passed out training, dripping wet, 96 pounds on the 22nd of October 1986, into the airborne infantry. My first Bergen that I jumped with out of a plane was 124 pounds. It was 28 pounds heavier than me. I couldn't even carry it. My rig, my parachute, my reserve, everything else, I was carrying almost 200 pounds. I then went on. I'm nowhere near as small as what I was now. I learned to carry those burdens. You learn, you work, you gain teammanship. I think every single person who is here, male and female, will remember your brothers and sisters in arms, your mockers, the ones that helped you, the ones that looked after you when you couldn't see the arc of fire when you were on patrol. Now, I'm not going to get big and say I did 19 op tours in 24 years, mostly in Northern Ireland, which was in the 80s, 70s and 80s, the biggest terrorist campaign anywhere in the world. I've served in Bosnia-Herzegovina where I saw mass ethnic cleansing. I served in Iraq. I then went on to become training instructor, military training instructor for Freeland Hospital. So they went on to become a military training instructor for a field hospital unit. So the nurse who was on earlier on, I can associate with everything that she did. I trained you guys to go. One of my best memories, training the new Iraqi army. I've got a GOC's commendation from Commander of Iraq Forces for my work in southern Iraq, in Basra. Fantastic times. I will always remember the good times as much as I will remember the bad times. Today, when I was polishing the medals and tuning up the shoelaces, I'm going through the names of my friends that have died. Because today is my Remembrance Day. I think you class the Memorial Day. But for me, it's Armistice today, on the 11th of November. So today it's about remembering and things. And I would like to finish, I won't keep it too long, I brought this up. This is an extract of a poem. And it's for everybody that's ever served who will know this. They went with songs to the battle, they were young, straight of limb, true of eye, steady and aglow. They were staunch to the end against odds uncounted. They fell with their faces to the foe. They shall not grow old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them. To all of you, I salute you. Thank you.
Next veteran is Marine veteran Frank Bourget. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing the name. I served during Vietnam era. Frank.
My friend over here, thank you. I'm going to make this short and sweet. It'll be more like my friend from overseas was talking about. This be a Memorial Day. Back in 1973, I was a sergeant in Virginia. Had 60 men under me in the barracks. I ran 2 offices, classified control section, mail and files. I was admin. I started out artillery, but I had a little college, so put you in charge of something. I'll never forget this. I was in charge of barracks, and the captain came up and says, I want 50 men ready to go in 2 weeks for Memorial Day. And he says, I want them in dress blues, Sergeant. You go to supply and make sure they're looking sharp and ready to go. I said, yes, sir. Climbed on a bus that night to go to a Memorial Day service. This is Norfolk, Virginia. We drove to a stadium, something like Atwood Stadium. You come in, you look down. I walked into that place, and I saw 24 caskets with flags on them. And I saw all the families sitting around on the field. And I looked around, there was 50 Marines, there was 50 Army, 50 Navy, 50 Air Force. And you had different people from different denominations of religion, Jewish rabbi, Catholic priest, and so on. There was a memorial service that I will never forget. When the service was done, they turned off all the lights. They put a spotlight on that flag. On the coffins, I'm sorry. Then they put a spotlight on the flag, and they played taps. I guarantee you there wasn't a dry eye in that place. And I'll never forget that memorial service. In the Bible, in the book of John, it says there is no greater love than a man who lays down his life for others. And that man that just spoke a while ago, he has the courage to stand up and put himself in front of TV and take up, go ahead. But I'm not being quiet. You got people that sacrifice for us all the time. And we got to honor those people. And to the Marines here, Scepter Fidelius, always faithful to God, family, and country. May God bless you all. And thanks again for letting me speak.
Next is Joe Massey. Joe is an Army veteran. He's an engineer, 2 years in Vietnam.
My name is Joe Massey. First of all, I'd like to thank the Congressman for putting on this forum today because to me it's very important. Now, I really didn't prepare to say anything until I got here. And the reason for that, I never really talked about my Army career to anyone. Upon returning from Vietnam, I never talked about my Army career. Because when you talk about certain things, people don't want to hear the truth. They want to hear something that sounds good. And I never had a good message that sounded good. I always had a true message. That was in me. So I was drafted. I went into the military in 1967. Basic training at Fort Benning, Georgia. From there I went to Fort Riley, Kansas. From Fort Riley, Kansas, I took a ship 19 days as companies to Vietnam. What I experienced, and I was scared as hell when I got to Vietnam. That's how bad it was. That's how bad I thought it was. But I was a person that always would like to take a deep dive into something and learn more about it. I never believed, now this is going to shock you, I never believed what my lieutenant said, I never believed what the captain said, I never believed what the first sergeant said. Now, I always listened to what they had to say, and I always analyzed it for myself. My ultimate goal in Vietnam, I had one goal. I had two goals. Fight for my country, and you can guess what the second goal was. I was going to stay alive at all costs. That was my second goal. So I figured I was a good soldier. But during my tenure in Vietnam in 1960, especially the Congressman many times. I'm going to just elaborate for a few minutes on North Korea. 1967, North Korea had a ship, U.S. ship, a Canadian Navy ship called Putnam. So all of the rhetoric that's coming from the White House and the news media about North Korea, I think over the years I was a person that I used to do a lot of reading. I was doing much reading I used to do. I used to read practically every newspaper out there. I used to be a subscriber to the newspapers, okay? So if you go back and you do the research on North Korea, I'm just going to say this for a few minutes. North Korea has always done damage to the United States. A lady a few minutes ago called DMZ something else, but I don't know what DMZ's on in North Korea about DMZ. Remember, the military rise on, okay? Up on the DMZ, they have always had accidents. They've always killed our soldiers. Now, I don't know how many planes that North Korea has shot down, but they've shot down a lot of our military planes. Well, you know that, that's a fact. So, when they mention about how close we are to war with Korea, North Korea, I don't know what to believe. Because if you've been reading it over the years, you have to take what's out there. I understand what's going on, but I try not to get that much concerned about it because I'm getting too old now to put myself in a position where I'm worried about whether we're going to war or not. But I just wanted to mention it. But the most important thing was my Vietnam tenure. I enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun in Vietnam. I learned a lot. I learned what racism was in the military. They always had racism. Always remember this. And when I say I read a lot, and I was close, I mentioned I was close to the lieutenants and I was close to the captain and the first sergeant. The whites got the promotion. The minorities were the last ones to be promoted. Remember that, Jim? That's what? Okay, that's a fact. Now, the reason I got promoted because I've always been a person, if I disagree with someone, I let you know that I disagree with you. You don't have to hold me that I'm a backstabber, I stab you in the front, okay? Now, I don't believe in stabbing you in the back. I believe you're going to come to the front. Whatever I'm going to do to you, I'm going to let you know in advance that I'm coming. So I can win. But besides that, so they weren't treating the soldiers right in Vietnam for as promotion, especially my company. So at that time, I don't know how the military runs today, but at that time, a company was basically run by the first sergeant. First sergeant had, most of them had been in the military at least 20 to 30 years, okay? So first sergeant had the last say. Whatever came up, someone was going to be court-martialed, first sergeant in that company, first sergeant had to say. So I go in and I talk to the first sergeant. So I told my friend, I said, I'm going to talk to the first sergeant because I want to be promoted. They said, that's a dangerous situation. He said, you know what he's going to do? I was in a supply unit. They said, he's going to send you to infantry. I said, so what? Because I have another plan, okay? I'm not going to tell you what the plan was, but I have another plan. So I go into the order room and I had a conversation with the first sergeant. And he said, oh, yeah. See, you know, in the military, we're talking about your last name. He said, Massey. He said, yes, Massey. He said, I got you on the list for promotion. He said, you didn't have to come to me. He said, I got you down. He said, you know, back in that time, the language was, hey, brother, so, brother, that's what he told me. I said, okay. So, the next week, he promoted 15 blacks. 15 blacks. We got promoted. Now, I was close with my lieutenant, simply because the lieutenant and I shared, I grew up in Mississippi. So the lieutenant was from Mississippi. So the lieutenant, he was scared as hell. And I was too. We both were scared as hell. So how I became so close to the lieutenant, he always kept a picture of his wife and kid in his little room that we had over the tent, you know. I told him one day, I said, you know what? He was ROTC lieutenant. I said, if you make the wrong decision, that beautiful wife you got, and some other man is going to enjoy your military benefit. So what you should do, you should consider that you and I, before you make a decision, get together and talk about it. He said, you know, that's a good idea. So we became very close, and I used to go throughout Vietnam while I was in the supply unit, so I drove a truck, sometimes a Jeep, most of the time a two and a half ton. So most of the time he would go with me. So when we would be on a convoy and I tell you, it was pretty rough out there. You get fire, you would receive a lot of fire sometimes, and your friends would end up dead. But that didn't bother me as much as I never thought I was going to die. I always was fighting for somebody else to live. It didn't matter whether the person was white or black. I always took care of everybody. The guy told me, Lieutenant told me something once. He said, Master, he said, I don't quite understand you. I said, what do you mean? He said, you told me you were scared as hell one day, and you were looking out for everybody. I said, well, that's what a good leader's supposed to do, like a congressman. He looks out for all of us in D.C. So that's what I consider a good leader. But at the time, I didn't think of myself as a good leader. I thought of myself as surviving, and I wanted as many of us to survive as possible. That's the way I saw life. I didn't see life as, okay, my friend over here, I didn't like him, I didn't want him to survive. Yes, we may have had some disagreements, but I took care of him. I made sure he was taken care of. If he needed some sea rations and we couldn't get to the mess hall, I always kept extra sea rations, so I gave him sea rations. But one of the most profound things that happened in my life when I was in Vietnam, as growing up, I could use a rifle pretty good. I used to rabbit hunt with a .22 rifle. And when I first told the story, the guy said, man, I don't believe it. He said, you rabbit hunted with a .22 rifle? I never heard of that. I said, well, I learned this. If you can hit a rabbit with a .22 rifle, you don't have a problem hitting a man in the head. I said, you don't have a problem at all. But what happened with my good marksmanship, I never knew this was that the government had this school. They came to me one day in Vietnam and said, you know, we got a job for you, and we're going to promote you. That sounded good. They said, what we're going to do, we got a job, we're going to send you to the government assassination school. Up in, I think at the time, somewhere in Virginia, you know more about it now, up in Virginia somewhere there. So I decided I would go. Then I thought about it. After he told me, well, I think you're gonna have to re-up. And that was it. I said, no, I'm getting out of that. But I did experience that, and I never knew that, because the reason I mentioned that, most people today, like I said, I talk about everything probably going on in Vietnam today to my friends. It's that I've never heard of assassination school before. I didn't even know the government had assassination school. And I always say this to them. If you read and believe certain things, you will know all of it. But if you never read, all of this information is out there. But if you never read, you never learn much about the government and how they operate. Now, I do believe this. Someone was talking about veteran benefit. In any organization, military, civilian life, you have to understand this, that if you're going for benefits, and I don't know how you do it individually, but I've been sort of good at it, I have to admit that, you have to find a way to communicate with the people that you're dealing with, that you're kind and nice to them, because there's only so many people that they're going to give benefits to per year. That's what I have calculated. And that's everywhere. Whether it's promotion in the military, there's only so many going to be promoted. So you make sure that you get on that list. You get good with your general, right? You get good with the general. You make sure you do everything he wants. You make sure his shoes are shined properly, split shine, that's where he used to be. But I want to let you know that this can't go in with a nasty attitude and expect for something good to come out of it. Thank you very much for that.
So we've got two veterans left to speak. Next, I'd like to invite the podium George Kildee, certainly Marines in District for 4.5 years.
Yes.
So, my name is George Kildee II. I am Flint native, born and raised, and I joined the Marine Corps at 30, at 29. I was in the fleet at 30, and it was a very interesting time in life for me. There's a few things in life that I have learned that unite people. You know, sports can be divisive, but it unites. Music, food, and the military. I had a lot of experiences that I didn't expect to have when I joined. You know, and come from a background of veterans and people that have served the country well. World War II, Korea, Vietnam, reserve people that uncles that were in the reserves, they were twins. That were at Camp Lejeune during the time of the water issue, so on and so forth. So it's been in my blood or my heritage, and I had this whole thing planned out what I was going to say when I got up here, but now it's almost like it punched in the face. What I'm about to say. But with that, I want to say that my time of service was a love-hate thing. I loved it. And all at the same time, I hated it. You know, the hurry up and wait process that you go through, the issue of promotions and all these other things. I had somewhat of a unique situation. I was an embark chief, so logistics was my job. And everybody in the Marine Corps is rated a embark. So I was stolen by one unit. I got to Japan, and they got there before my actual unit could come get me. And I didn't, you know, regardless of your age, you don't know what's going on until you know what's going on. And so I go a year before I realized that I'm in the wrong unit. Nothing can get done. Nobody can proctor my stuff. I'm just in the wrong unit. But it was, you know, by that time the other unit had a different embarker, but they wouldn't release me over to them because it was this little feud. But it was an interesting time. I had some issues because of that. Him to be the only one of my father's sons to be able to say, hoorah, Semper Fi, I was a Marine. So I made the jump. And from that, it was just an interesting ride. You know, I've experienced ageism, racism, sexism, all kinds of isms, but all in the same breath. There was a unity that comes along with that based on how you live your life. And when you live your life, because I was always either the bigger brother or the father figure in the units that I was in or around the people I was in, I was the protector or the person that was getting people out of the crap they got themselves into because I had already lived it. And it caused a lot of barriers to be overcome. You know, I have guys right now that are operators across the country, and doing all types of magnificent work right now across the country for the country. But my thing is, we as a country have to learn how to pass on legacy. We did a good job in what I've read, what I've learned, and what I know up to this point, up until a certain era. But now we're losing, and there's a big gap. The VFW, the BAB, the American Legion, you guys are down now. Nobody's joining at the rate that they used to, and that's a problem. We have to figure out how to come together, bridge the gap, be able to have the conversations, be able to have that unity and that pride of being together like we did when we were in the service. Because if we don't know each other, then we don't know where to go with each other, and we become even more divisive towards each other. People perish because of lack of knowledge of knowing each other, in this sense of how I'm putting it. So if we don't get to understand our issues, problems, and circumstances so we can grow together, then so goes the veteran, so goes the country, in my opinion. Just like I believe so goes Flint, so goes the country when it comes to the issues that we are dealing with. Because Michigan has provided the country with a lot of resources over the last 100 years. A lot of great minds, a lot of great people, a lot of great sacrifice, and especially Flint. So we have to be the example that is showing the rest of the country what direction we need to go in, because we have been cursed and blessed with a unique situation, which was this water crisis, which can show people how unified we can become and how we can overcome issues that are beyond our understanding and beyond one person's fix, and come together and fix these issues and go ahead. The water issue, that's 7 generations. That's almost equivalent to the Agent Orange issue. If you have Agent Orange, that's 7, 8, 9 generations that stuff is going through your bloodline. So we have a lot of parallels, and those things can turn into opportunities in order to grow our community and grow the situations that we have to advance who we are as a people in this country. I started, and I went way off. Like I said, it's like being punched in the face. Just one second. But when I got out of the military, I found myself homeless and trying to figure out what happened and how did I get here. There's a longer story that led me to that, but I'm not going to tell that story. But when I was in that process of trying to go through my valley of homelessness, I had to make a decision because, I'm service-connected 70% currently. So I've got issues. I have things that I have to deal with and that I have to overcome every day. But I had to make a decision then before I realized how bad my issues were, whether I wanted to be here and fight or just give up and let life do whatever it was going to do. And I chose to pick my pack back up and fight. And I started a nonprofit here in Flint, Michigan called VON, Veterans of Now. And my daily task is to help as many veterans as possible. Before I came here, one of the news outlets did a small interview yesterday. My email, my Facebook and stuff has been full, so I was answering questions all up until the point I got to here. And that's what drives me, being able to connect with people that understand the plight. There's several people that were in this room that